Good morning. I'm having my morning coffee and I'm kind of like still sleepy. But anyway, I was remembering my old friend Joe. Joe and I first met more years ago than I care to admit to from a dating website. And at the time, my children were younger, and, I was raising them and working and, taking care of, the house that I raised my kids in was a small house, 1,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, But, it certainly was more than adequate, and I was very blessed to raise them in that house. And so, I was kind of busy, but so anyway, I remember us meeting, and back in the day, the economy was good. We went out to dinner, and we talked and hit it off, and we went out a few times. We went out to dinner another time to an Italian place, and then we went, it was in the fall, this haunted hayride up in Esopus, New York. Anyway, in Ulster County. So, that was many years ago. So then, it was like kind of then right before Christmas. And, he like, back to, like, it never went anyplace. It didn't get serious at all. But we liked each other, and we had good conversation. And we stayed in touch as friends peripherally. And, we would update each other, like he, at one point, was seeing someone, and then at another point, he lived with someone for 10 years, and, I let him know what was going on with me over the years, and, when my, one of my sons moved out, and blah, 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 he would say, how are the boys, blah, 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 blah. So, we would have peripheral contact, and, I don't know, I think it was about a year ago, he texted me on Facebook, and we spoke on the Facebook phone a few times, and, I brought him up to speed with, like, my health challenges, and he told me about his, and actually it was quite a good conversation because he lived in the same area, and he used one of the doctors that I used and recommended another one that was better. So we had a good exchange of information, no hard feelings or anything, because that's what adults do. Emotionally balanced, stable adults don't get all bent out of shape over nothing. So anyway, I never asked him why, why did it never go anyplace so many years ago? And it came up without me asking him. He said, I remember I had always thought of you as being a good mother. He said, your son's got a real dinner every night. And I laughed and I said, what's a real dinner? Like, is there like a fake dinner? And he said, no. He said, his mother was a really good mother. And he told me a lot about his mother. And then he said that I reminded him of his mother, and he said, I knew that your kids every night got like a meat and like a potato or rice or whatever, and gravy and a vegetable and a salad. And he said, the way you had your house, it was like a normal household. Like, you had like the decorations up at Christmas and, Halloween and blah, 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 and Easter baskets. He said you were, focused in on, raising your kids, even though you also wanted to have someone for yourself. And he said, I really liked you. He said, more than you ever realized. He said, but at the time, I felt that I was having feelings for you, but you were raising 2 sons, and he didn't see himself as being a step parent to my kids, so that's why he backed off. And I said, I understand, because, sometimes, you just you like someone, but you just don't like the situation that, they have. And he never had children, so even though he was divorced. So I was like, oh, I'm, cool with that. And then he said he always wondered, and this really threw me for a loop. He said, Jeannie, I always wondered, did I make the right decision? He said, maybe I should have pursued something, married you, and been a stepfather. And I said, well, that's really nice of you to say that, but what's the point now? Because, everything's all in the past. And he told me that he got a condo in a 55-plus community, not too far from where I used to live. And we mutually agreed that if we were ever going to be in the same area at the same time, we would meet for coffee as old friends, and just laugh and talk about things, about what the area was like when we lived there and everything. Because that's what adults do. I really believe the older I get, and having lost 2 long-term friends, we're talking about, I think, almost 30 years, them passing away. When you're older, you can make new friends, but you can't make new old friends. The history of knowing someone for 30 years. So when you hear from someone in your past, even if you really, didn't really stay in touch, I don't care about the gender. I also heard from my high school sweetheart, and we're not getting together, just like me and Joe are not getting together. But we have a nice past history, mutual life experiences, and now we're older, and it's okay. And that's my attitude. And some people take it as, oh, you're looking for, I'm too old for that side actions. I'm not saying that older people can't have affairs, but I actually enjoy friendships with men opposite sex, because men do not compete. As a rule, they don't compete with women. Women, even older women that like each other, can be very competitive, and they compare their lives. And I don't like that, and I don't roll that way, and I wasn't raised that way. And I'm a pretty direct, upfront person. And I'm not saying that I don't enjoy women as friends, but in certain ways, I think I enjoy males as friends more than females. Unless you're a certain type of female. Like if you're the type of female like my late friends June and Anita. If you are a woman like Sophia Petrillo, not her real name, I'm not interested in being friends with you. But, it was really refreshing to touch base with Joe. And it's refreshing to touch base with, sort of like a childhood sweetheart. We knew each other's families, and, we had like a lot to talk about. We still talk about family, living and dead, and everything. And I really enjoy that, rather than a woman looking me up and down and looking at my hair or my lipstick, or, like, well, you're older now. Don't you think that shirt might be a little low cut when it's just a scoop neck? Well, maybe you should wear your hair short, or, that kind of stuff. So it really was refreshing to be in it is refreshing to be in contact with people that I knew from years ago, because, like I said, you can't make new old friends. And it's good when you meet someone, even if it doesn't click or there's obstacles and you really can't, there's nothing wrong with considering it a friend. And if not, no hard feelings or talking badly or creating drama or gossip or other people meddling and running behind to talk smack about you. That to me is very, very childish. And I didn't make it through all of my medical stuff just to act like a big baby, a child, a little girl, or a Karen. So I'm really grateful for the friendships that I do have. And, maybe a new friend is like silver, but the old friends are like gold. So anyway, everyone, have the day that you deserve, and hopefully it's a good one. Bye.